All right, let's see if I can do this all in one take and see if I can do it the right way this time. I've already done this once, but I filmed it straight up and down, so it's a complete wash. So as you can see behind me, car's up in the air. That is because we finally started working on it, because the season is 2 months away, and we got a lot to do, but also not a lot to do at the same time. Maybe you can see behind me the front subframe's out of the car. I mentioned this online a little bit, that I'm going to be switching to Wisefab V3, which is something I'm very excited about, something that I have been wanting to do, I've been thinking about doing for over a year now. Yeah, I mean, getting rid of B-Knuckle and going to Wisefab has been something that I wasn't sure I wanted to do. I was, one week I'd want to do it, one week I wouldn't want to do it, because because B-Knuckle is just so good, right? Like, it's very fun to drive, it has plenty of angle, it's cool, it's simple, it checks a lot of boxes, and it's been great for the last 3 years. So that's one of the reasons why I don't really want to go away from it, right? But I've been drifting for going on 7 or 8 or 9 years now, right? So I got to keep progressing. I got to keep trying things. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go with some Wisefab V3, and that means that it converts the car from rear rack to front rack. We're gonna get rid of that. Rack mounts back there. We're gonna chop this all to pieces. Rack will go in the front. Bing, bang, boom. Steery. Well, that's another thing that I wasn't sure about doing, because I enjoy the way the S chassis drive because of the rear rack, and I didn't previously enjoy the way the BMWs drove being front rack, but nice. Something kind of sealed the deal for me. The last event of the year at Owasso, I got to drive, not Owasso, where were we? Yeah, at Owasso. So I got to drive Dylan Chad's car. Chad has Wisefab, Dylan has SLR. Both cars felt pretty similar. What I really liked about Dylan's car more than Chad's, Dylan's car was a little more reserved. So Dylan's car felt a little bit easier to drive than Chad's, but one of the biggest things with Dylan's car was no matter where I was at in the steering range, whether I was at 20 degrees or at full lock, the preload on the steering was always the same. It was flat. Like let's say it was always linear. Whereas with B-Knuckle, and this is one of the things I've always preached about with B-Knuckle, and obviously I still do enjoy about it, is that you can really use the steering, because the car will caster jack so much, to preload the car, and you can choose how you want to transition, or it basically creates this endless amount of tools that you could have in your driving style, because there's certain ways you can use throttle and steering input and steering angle to change the way that the car reacts, and that's super fun. But my goal for this year is I really want to try to step up and be one of the big dogs, I guess. Be able to put on a show like these top tier drivers, these top tier YouTubers. So that's another reason why I'm making this video, right? I want to get back into YouTube. I really want to try my best to elevate myself for the 2025 season, and just see what comes of it. We're gonna do a lot of interesting things next year that I haven't done. One being taking YouTube pretty serious, doing my absolute best to put out quality content and make sure that I capture quality content, and just be more aware of making sure that I get enough content. And then driving, last year wasn't the best year, getting used to the new setup, but we figured a lot out, and I'm very excited to go into 2025 with everything sorted. Let's get into the car, what's going on, what I'm gonna do. Like I said, Wisefab V3, so we're waiting for the suspension to show up, and then I'll modify the subframe to fit the BMW rack. I ended up going with a Purple Tag E46 rack. So I think there is 3 versions. There's purple, yellow, and there's another color, I don't remember what it was. But basically one of the colors is a quicker steer. I think that's the M3 rack. So it's less turns in total. So let's say my car right now is 1.5 left and 1.5 right, making it 3 complete turns. This rack would have been like 1 turn left, 1 turn right, making a total of 2. not something I'm interested in. I've driven cars like that. I don't like it. And then the other rack, I think, is the color I can't think of. But anyways, the difference between the other rack I was debating getting and the purple tag is that the purple tag that I got is a lighter steering feel, and it's a closer ratio to an S13. The other color was the same ratio, but a little bit heavier of steering. If you ever driven an S chassis, then you know that they steer light, and that's definitely something I want to try and stick with. A heavy steering is just not ideal. Another thing I'd like to touch on is the fact that one of the other reasons why I wanted to go with the YSFAB, and another one of the selling points was that I recently switched to electric power steering. So with electric power steering, it's not belt driven anymore. It's just an electric pump that you run power to, and it constantly runs. It constantly cycles fluid, which means that it's the same feel the entire time. So with a belt driven system, what happens is, especially with a turbo car, you're all over with the RPMs, trying to keep the boost up. You push the clutch in, the RPMs drop pretty quick, blah 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 blah. So when you have less assist with a belt driven system, the steering will get harder to turn, right? So anytime I push the clutch in, I have to think about the fact that the steering is going to get harder, meaning like, okay, let's say I push the clutch in and it's this hard to turn the wheel because there's less assist. But if I'm on throttle, it's this easy because it's fully assisted. With electric, it's the same the entire time. So we come back to that whole linear, however you say it. None of this, it's just this the entire time. Something I didn't think that really mattered, right? But when we're driving stuff like the Toge and Grid Life, and I'm trying to compete and do good in GP or in Street League, now we're stepping up in the GP. I won't get into all that right now, but I need less things to think about, especially when I'm getting older and you got dudes like Cash and all these other young dudes that are just shredding. I kind of need any advantage I can get, and truthfully, I'm curious to take that path and see what happens. But anyways, same story with Dylan's car, right? Less things I had to think about. So I'm hoping between electric power steering, YSFAB, and a few other things, we'll be able to make the car mindless to drive. So yeah, where was that? Purple tag rack, right? So we got that, sent at the shop. Next thing up after that would to be get some bumpers. I am working with Duraflex as well, which is super exciting. I made a post earlier in the year, said a body kit sponsor would be pretty sick. I said that as a joke, but then I got to thinking why don't I reach out? I'm already buying these parts. Duraflex to me is a great option that a lot of people, maybe people are using it and they just don't talk about it because it's not cool, you know what I mean? But it's a great option, right? We're blowing these bumpers to pieces. Who wants to spend twice the money on Origin just for Origin to show up and it doesn't fit perfect? None of it does, especially when all these cars are twisted anyway. So you can get Duraflex for half the cost and it fits barely worse. And none of it even matters because you're gonna blow it up anyway, right? So why wouldn't you want to spend less money on your body kit anyway? So that's where we're at. Very excited to work with Duraflex. So front suspension, body kit, gotta get those bumpers first so then we can rebuild the bash bars. Some of you may know, some of you might not know, I crashed the car at Killcare, destroyed the front bash bar, destroyed the front end. So we gotta rebuild that. What else is on the list? I'd like to do an axle dump exhaust. I'm not 100% sure on this. I'm not sure. I really don't know because I don't want it to be too much louder, but I also hate taking the exhaust off to change an axle, and I changed a couple axles last year. Maybe I'll be doing that more. Maybe I'll be doing that more in 2025. Man, sorry, I'm trying to keep this going so it's exciting. I know I'm just kind of sitting here like a bump on a log, but I'm freezing. So yeah, moving on, the motor. So right now the motor in the car is a stock motor. I ended up spinning a bearing and I got a screw in my built motor, which is very unfortunate, and I do not want to rebuild it. So I was already working with Speed Performance out of New Jersey. They're huge EcoBoost guys. They know a ton about it. So it only felt right to send the blown up block out to them and have them rebuild it so that I have my best chance at 2025 running 500 horsepower all season. I think I could have done it myself, but some things you just don't need to do everything, right? Like, I don't build engines. I'm not an engine builder, and the engine is a pretty important part of my season, right? I need the engine to work. I don't want to be putting engines in it again like I did last year. So I'm very happy to be working with Speed. They're going to rebuild the motor for me. They're going to send it back. They're the guys. Never going to worry about it. I think that's actually it, man. I mean, not much of an update really, but basically just want to get this out, make the first video, get back in the groove. I had a headache. I was chilling on the couch and I was like, man, I gotta accomplish something today, right? So this is it, accomplishing it right now. I'm doing this video for you guys. So YSAB V3, working with Duraflex, Carbon Creations to get a new body count on this thing. Working with Coil Over Depot again to get the YSAB V3, sending my bumpers out to them. They're gonna rewrap them, get them looking nice. What else? Maybe axle dump. Speed Performance rebuilding the motor, gonna send them, get that boy back, turn the power up. Jake's gonna tune it, Gem Sport, of course. It's pretty much it, and I'm gonna take you guys along, obviously, as I do the YSFAB and as I fix a few other things. We're working heavy with Nostrum this year, Nostrum Performance. They do DI injectors and DI pump on these EcoBoosts. They're a great company. I did a shop tour with them in 2024. When I was there, whatever, I did a shop tour of what they got going on. They took me through and showed me basically all their processes and all their machinery to make sure that they put out great products. And I was really blown away by that. So I'm excited to, basically for the camera, redo that whole experience again to show you guys what they got going on. And maybe do a few other things with them this year. So yeah, I'm cold, man. I'm gonna take some beauty shots of this thing to try and fill in all this talking so it's not so boring and take myself inside. So yeah, we got Coil Over Depot socks. These are Velcro, so you don't have to take your suspension off to put them on. Great. I've told you guys a million times. Subframe's out. Motor is not happily sitting on a jack in the car. Michelle came out to hang out the other day and let this cheese dip out here. That's really it. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you didn't get too bored. See you guys next time.